All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ashley Abrams, Chair of the CAR Professional Development Committee, and I welcome you to the September Latte and Learn. So this session is focused on appraisal update, and our guest speaker is Woody Fencham. Woody is a well-respected appraiser, instructor, and author. He has valued some of the most complex residential homes in the Commonwealth. He is frequently retained to work as an expert witness, and his practice includes valuation, valuation review, consulting, and feasibility analysis. He is a well-regarded instructor, having taught many appraisal courses. His firm, Fincham and Associates, Inc., works frequently on lending related work as well as non-lending work throughout Central Virginia and all over the Commonwealth for mansion level and state level property. So, Woody, I will now go ahead and hand over the session to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to do a little presentation here. Most real estate agents and brokers right now don't know what's happening in the appraisal world. Fannie Mae, as of this coming Monday, has changed the entire formatting that appraisers have to use. And so we're going to focus mostly on that today. But I've left it kind of open-ended. There's not a lot of slides to go through. So if we jump through everything faster than we're here for, then what we'll do is we'll open it up for some discussion if y'all want to ask questions and things like that. But feel free to ask any questions you have. If you want to throw them in chat, that's fine. If you want to unmute yourself and talk, that's fine too, because we're all here to just have a conversation. So just want to double check. Is my PowerPoint showing through okay? Because I can't tell on my screen. Everything looks good.
Yes.
Yes, I'm seeing the house with the hand.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what's going on? Fannie and Freddie both, I refer to them lovingly as the twins, have decided that they want to streamline the way appraisal reports are written, which means a whole lot more work for appraisers, and ultimately the way it's going to affect agents and brokers initially is going to be how long it takes us to gather data at the property. They are now requesting, we're going from about 15 fields that they track in the current formatting system over to they're going to be tracking somewhere in the neighborhood of several hundred. I forget exactly how many it is, but they're looking at all kinds of things. Some of the new things that appraisers are going to be required to do, for an example, is we have to know the distance from the grade at the foundation to the door. And the reason they're making us put that information is because they want to track properties that are located in flood zones. Not something that we deal with a lot here, but um, we do have some, flood areas around the streams and rivers and things like that. But basically, what they're going to do is when they want to figure out if the structure actually has a flood insurance on it or not. So that's going to help to determine that because if it's a foundation where it's 16 feet off the ground to the threshold, then the likelihood of needing flood insurance on the building is diminished because it's not really low to the ground. So um, all kinds of appliance information, all kinds of other information. But the other thing that's going to change is that it goes from a 6-page report to, I've seen examples now that run anywhere from 20 to 26 pages in length. And it's all data centered, but it's going to be easier to read. I'll show you some examples here in a little bit. But it is going to change the way y'all are interacting with appraisers. And it is definitely a winding river. So what the reason they do this is Fannie is the largest purchaser of secondary on the secondary market for mortgages, and they want to have some continuity between all the different areas of the country. I mean, real estate's very local, and what they're asking for appraisers to do now is to kind of work in a world that's a little more what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, con consistent is the right word. Sorry. Um, and in the end, they're trying to get away from, regional jargon and the way people look at things. One example would be, what a ranch is here in Charlottesville. Well, a ranch here in Charlottesville is a little one-story house in a subdivision somewhere. If you go to Montana, a ranch is a completely different concept. It's a working farm usually, and usually thousands of acres. So Fannie, wants everything to be as consistent as they can, so they can do AI reviewing, which they're already doing to a very, very high level. I've seen their market data, and their market data is second to none. I mean, it's amazing what they do analysis on there. But they want to be able to track a whole lot of things, so they want to make sure that they're able to move quickly. Also, the new format is going to allow them to change things in the format without having to do a major thing. The last time they changed anything for the appraisers was in 2014, I believe, and that's when they added those 15 fields that I was speaking about earlier. They went from just like basically a PDF to a format where they could read all of that, and that's when those of you who were working before then, you remember appraisers used to often say that properties were average in condition, quality, but now they use the C1, C2, C3 ratings for condition, and the Q ratings for the quality, and they had very specific meanings for those things because they wanted to get away from ambiguity and being vague about everything. So that's the reasons all this is happening. It's going to be super important that with all of y'all working with lending professionals to know how to read the reports. Now, I don't have a full presentation here today to show anyone that. I was hoping that to put something together and hopefully start sharing it within the next several months. In the end, the early production begins on Monday, so that means very limited lenders are, if they choose to be an early adopter of it, they can do it. But most lenders, I think, are going to stay with the traditional formatting for right now because they don't want to gum up closings because they've got to get all the bugs worked out of the system. I think Rocket Mortgage is one of the participants that are approved for early adoption, but I'm not sure that they really haven't given us any info on it. But it's definitely something that's coming. Um, we'll see more adoption of it early on in 2027 or 2026, excuse me. And then all the legacy forms will go away in 2027. They will have to be completely out of the system by then. Um, but it's happened so fast that all the major software providers for appraisers, like Alamode and ACI, I'm sure some of those names probably don't mean much to y'all, but that's the software that we use to write reports, and they are not ready. So they're telling us that November is probably going to be the soonest they're going to have something running. So I'm expecting an imminent decision from the twins to tell us that they're going to kick it back a couple of months to allow the software companies to get caught up. Otherwise, I don't know what they're going to do. But again, it's going to standardize all the appraisal data. It's going to help with the underwriting process. It's going to allow underwriters to look at reports. There's no longer going to be, I know it's very frustrating to read an appraisal report and you're looking at something and it says see addenda or see whatever because the forms are static. They're it's like any other form, but they're designed for typewriters, really, not really designed for what we use today. And so what they've done is they've made the form dynamic. And what that means is that each section of the report will expand rather than having to jump to an addenda, which will allow the appraiser to write more if they need to. But it also allows them to embed pictures and charts and things like that in the section where it's at. I know in our report, we usually have somewhere between 6 to 10 charts with market analysis information, like average days on market, how sales price per square foot is trending over time. All that'll be right there in the section where we're talking about the market analysis rather than having to go and jump to multiple pages to find it. So, and there's a lot of, on the lender side, they use reviewers, which is an appraiser who basically is reviewing the report for lending purposes. It's very frustrating to them to have to jump around, and they're looking at dozens of reports a day, if not more, and it's really going to help their process. It's also going to help communicate uh, what's in the report better. I mean, appraisers ultimately are technical writers and should be writing well enough that everybody who reads it can understand what they're doing. This format's going to force appraisers to actually do more analysis and more narrative and just put out a better product all the way around, I hope. Um, it's a big impact on my profession. The median age for my profession is 63. And as we all know, as we get a little bit more mature, or I like to say, have a little patina when the gray hair show up. Um, a lot of folks are getting close to retirement, and they may not be in the field much longer. They're talking about getting out. I taught over 50 students last week in Houston, and several of them, were uh, well past the median age of 63. And every one of them are like, I don't know that we can handle a change like this because it's literally going to force appraisers to have to use tablets and have to use digital devices in the field. Using a clipboard is not going to really be an option for appraisers anymore because they have to be able to reference all the different things they have to reference now. We have, I think, 5 or 6 different appendices that we have to basically be familiar with. A lot of new terms and a lot of new, like certain parts of the format that we're going to be using uh, will require, very specific terminology. And so, appraisers have been doing this for 30 or 40 years. They're like, I don't know that I want to, transition through such a stark change. So we'll see. Which hopefully that doesn't happen to a large degree because if it does, it's going to mean we're going to have less appraisers and the market's not supercharged right now like it was in COVID, where we needed every appraiser out there that would work. But if we get back to another market like that and we lose, 10% of our appraisal population, then it's going to start holding up closing. So hopefully, we get uh, folks decide they want to stay in. What else have we got here? So this is an example of what the report looks like. This is the very first page of about 20 or so. This is going to be great for all the agents and brokers out there because it puts all the essential information on the very first page of the report. And this is just a hypothetical mock-up that Fannie did. And the opinion of market value is the very first thing on it. And if there are any market value conditions, well, in this case, there's some subject to repair items on it. So if you're FHA is adopting this format too. They're going to go to it in spring of next year, and VA is going to follow sometime thereafter. VA is always a little bit slower to get into this stuff because they want to make sure that it works because they'll, with the VA, it's all about the veterans and treating them as best as we can, and they don't want a bunch of uh, gremlins in the mix, I guess. And so the formats are actually working. But it puts everything here that needs to be here as far as pertinent information. So a reviewer or an underwriter can get, the 20,000 foot view of the report. It's all right here. And you'll notice here at the bottom, um, so that's the important part there. You get your market value, your market conclusion, or market value conditions, excuse me. And it didn't show it. I thought I had a blow up of it. But here at the bottom, you can see this is where if there's any repairs required for loans that would require it, like VA or FHA or USDA, they're right here. So if you get a copy of the report, it's all right there, and you don't have to go searching through the report because every appraiser has to put it in different spots depending on how they put their reports together. And I know that can be frustrating for folks when they're reading it. This is the most important part besides that cover page, I think that everyone's going to be concerned with. Most of you have probably read an appraisal and you know what a sales comparison approach grid looks like. Well, this is the new one. It's set up more like a commercial appraisal report, but it's still modular in the sense that it'll look the same. Some of these fields, though, they do appear and disappear depending on the property type. There's no longer going to be multiple appraisal forms. For single family homes, we use what's called the 1004 for Fannie. For a 2 to 4 multi unit, an apartment, basically, we use what's called a 1025. And they're all set up very differently because again, those forms are really designed thinking more of the way technology worked 25 years ago, not the way it works now. And so, if I check when I'm going into this that I'm going to be doing a manufactured home as an example, manufactured homes have their own form, their 1004C. Well, now it's going to just use the same format, but manufactured home fields will just pop up so that they're there where they need to be in the analysis. So the format changes and transforms as needed, depending on what's going on. When we're dealing with properties that have accessory dwelling units, that's going to be a section that pops up when they're applicable. Same thing for outbuildings and everything else. And that's I'll come back to ADUs here in a minute and talk to you about how that's changing a little bit too. But you'll notice here, this is the first page of the sales comparison. Notice I said first page. It's no longer one page. It's going to be multiple pages, and it breaks it down closer to what we refer to on our side of the fence as the appraisal process. It's an eight-step process that we use when we're going through and doing our appraisal work. And this kind of mirrors it a little closer than it did before. But you'll see there's different sections here. We're dealing with the site. We've got dwellings. The dwellings would include anything that's a living unit on the property. So if there are accessory dwelling units, there will be breakouts here for the different buildings and things like that. Um, what else have we got here? So this is the second page here of the sales comparison approach. This is where we're getting over into some more property characteristics, where they're looking at quality and condition, um, property amenities, and all of that. Then there's a nice summary section here at the bottom. Uh, they are requiring now that appraisers, and this will be a great tool for a lot of you when you're challenging an appraisal, in that, if you look at the summary section here in the middle of the screen, it says comparable weight at the bottom there, uh, under summary. And it says most, and less. Well, what that means is that they're going to draw attention to which comparables are given the most consideration in the value opinion. So if you feel like there's a better comparable out there, you'll be able to immediately go in and go, okay, the appraiser's giving the wrong property a lot of weight, or all of the weight in some cases. Um, and in this case, comp one and comp two are both most. What that means is they're giving equally or equal consideration to both of the comparables, and they believe that they are superior representations over the information in comparison to comparable three. So it will give you some qualitative things to work with, and once you learn how to get used to the format and you know how to read it, it will make reconsideration of values a little easier to do. Then down at the bottom, this is another thing with reconsideration of values that we struggle with a lot because we do it in our firm and have always done it. Anytime that we do a reconsideration of value, we will always discuss any alternative comparables that are brought. Sometimes agents will bring us really good comps that have to during the ROV process or the reconsideration of value process, and because of that, we will actually change values. I mean, it's we're humans, and we sometimes we don't get all the data, or if you're working in Louisa, if you don't have access to all the MLSs that kind of overlap there, you may not see all of the data. And hell, sometimes even when you're dealing with one MLS, you can run the exact same searches twice, a couple of times, and you might get an extra comp or less some of the comps because sometimes the MLS search can be a little wonky. So this, we're giving you a list now of all the properties that we also considered, but didn't use, and then we will give a commentary as to why we're not using it. So when you do a reconsideration of value, make sure you get a copy of the report and go to this section as you're offering comparable properties, something that you think is very comparable that should be considered, may have already been considered by the appraiser, and it's going to be right there for everybody to see. And this is just a closer view of what's going on. This example they give here is, I'll call it a paragraph, I guess, in the reconciliation of sales comparison approach. That can expand out into thousands of words. I mean, it doesn't have to be that succinct. Generally speaking, it should be longer than this anyway. But they're giving just a short example, I guess. But the appraiser can get in to discuss all the different things that they're doing and all that good stuff as far as the adjustments and what have you. And this is just a close up of what the additional properties analyzed and not used looks like. So it will allow appraisers to do more, and it's gonna. I'm just gonna go back to this pad. Don't want to stare at the busy screen. Um, it's going to allow appraisers to communicate very effectively, but it does mean that they have to change what they're doing. So when this goes into major use, it's going to slow the appraisers down. It's going to take a couple of dozen instances of them doing this before they're even remotely comfortable with it. So don't be surprised if you show up to an inspection and the appraiser takes, whether it was taking them, 25, 30 minutes before. I'm expecting us to be on site longer to the extent of probably an hour or more, even on simple properties. I do beta testing for one of the software companies, and I've been playing with it a little bit in the field. And we don't even have a fully operational beta version of it yet. But I did a townhouse a couple of days ago over in Northern Albemarle, there by the airport. One of the newer developments, and relatively simple piece of property. But I mean, I used to fly through those things. If it's vacant and I don't have to answer questions, I'm in and out of it in 15, 20 minutes, and I've got everything I need at that point. Now I've got to put the stuff specifically into a digital format so that it can be collected because there's no way I can collect all the information, even with a pencil, um, and doing it from memory. There's just too much stuff to account for. So it's going to require a lot of work on the appraiser's end. The appraisers who are doing cost approaches, there's the self comparison approach, the cost approach, and then the income approach. The cost approach is going to be much more detailed now, and depreciation schedules and things like that have to be included. I know all that sounds like a nightmare and a headache, but it's what appraisers have to do. And if we're utilizing any of the other two approaches, income and cost, there's specific things that we have to deal with there, and it's going to require more time. Like I said, there's going to be some. The format will allow them to change, so they don't have to do a major announcement anymore, where it takes them years to make these kinds of changes. They've created a format now where they're really going to be able to do this on the fly. I mean, they can if they sometimes the federal legislators will change some things, the way lending has to work, and appraisers have to adjust to that. And rather than having to do a rollout that takes a really long time to do, they can now just do it. It's going to be very easy for them. The terminology is changing, and I'm going to put when I put together my stuff for that, I will definitely include some matrix a matrix to show what the new terminology means. None of it's Most of it's intuitive. I don't think anyone's going to really struggle with it, but again, they're trying to get everybody talking the same language. Uh, we've talked about most of that already. So what does this mean for you guys? Well, here's the timeline. I spoke about it briefly earlier. We go into limited production period on Monday, and that will allow the few lenders who are participating, and they don't even if they're doing limited production, they're not required to do it. So they can pick and choose what they want to do. So they may, as an example, pick Northern Virginia as a market. That's usually a market they like to play with because both Fannie and Freddie have campuses there. And when they're testing stuff out, that's generally where they do most of their testing. And it's a very diverse, real estate market. They've got all kinds of stuff going on up there. And uh, the lenders who want to do it can do it here, and then they'll start running it through. Then in January, we're going to have broad production, which means more lenders are going to be participating in it. The ones that have got their training and all that done. And then November of next year, which is a little over a year from now, is when it's mandated to be done. And then by the following May in 2027, anything that's in the old legacy format will no longer be applicable. And by then it won't matter anyway. If they're mandating it in November, conventional loans are usually only good for, I think 180 days. So that's far enough out that um, they won't need to, there probably won't be anything left in the system anyway to hold anybody up. And, as you get familiar with it, it'll be a little easier for you to use. Like anything, you'll get it's going to be a little overwhelming, I think, for folks trying to read these things at first. But I'll do my best to try to help it, and hopefully Teresa can squeeze me in somewhere over the next several months. And because I need a working copy of this in software format that I can actually use before I can really dig into it. And that's the difficult part about teaching these classes to appraisers right now is we're talking concepts. I spent 7 hours talking about this is how this section of the report's going to work. This is what you can do, what you can't do, and everybody has to think about it and conceptualize it. There's not a whole lot of visual aid to go with it right now because nobody understands how each of I think we have like six major producers of appraisal software forms right now, and all of them have different user interfaces. So it's going to be difficult for a lot of the appraisers to really visualize what's going on. So that's why I don't have many examples here. Uh, this is some data that I pulled from Fannie. It just says some implications for you guys for listing, selling, and closing. They're saying updated appraisal standards can lead to adjustments in how property listings are determined. Obviously, whatever Fannie or Freddie do affects everything. Even in a market like we have here in Charlottesville, over 30% of our transactions are cash, so you don't have to deal with a lender. But even those, when appraisals are done and those, it's still affected by what Fannie and Freddie are doing because all the data has to be basically be standardized in a way that works for everybody. So appraisers are going to, even when they're doing non-lender work, are going to switch over to some things the way Fannie's doing them just to keep their data consistent in their databases. Um, I don't know about the negotiation thing they've got here on the screen. It says changes in appraisal methods impact buyer and seller negotiations. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I really don't see how that's going to really come in. But again, impact on closing, it's going to be probably more time required for the appraisal. I'm hoping the lenders realize this and they order the appraisals earlier on. I know nobody wants to pay for an appraisal they ultimately can't use because it doesn't go to closing for whatever reason. But if it's going to take the appraisers more time in the field, it's going to take them more time at their desktop. So, um, you know, hopefully they're going to be more proactive than react to it and just go ahead and get ahead of it. If you have any lenders that you're working with, have them reach out to me if they've got questions about it. I'm happy to help them, even if we don't work with them, because we have a very distinct list of lending clients that we work with, and there's some that we don't. And even if they're not, clients or rather, yeah, clients that we regularly work with, I'm happy to get with them. Um, Matter of fact, it may not be a bad idea to reach out to our affiliate list and you know make them aware of what's going on so they understand it. Loan officers are usually the last person in the chain to get all the training on this stuff anyway. Understanding this format and all that stuff's going to help you communicate with us a whole lot better. Um, ultimately you have clients that you're going to have to counsel through some of this stuff, and you understanding the terminology and how it all works, at least in concept, will help you explain it to them. And we're hoping that it just creates a smoother process once everybody gets adapted to it. Yeah, we just discussed all of that. The other question that comes up often, and I can discuss it here because there's no appraisers here, but fees. Will fees go up? My understanding is yes, appraisal fees are going to go up. I know we're certainly going to go up in our firm. To what level we'll go for lending work, I don't know yet because we really haven't tested it to see what's going to be acceptable. But lenders and appraisal management companies are famous for trying to hire the cheapest appraisers that they can. And a lot of appraisers, they bid or they charge less than a lot of other firms because they can't compete any other way. They're not offering a better quality service, so they will lower the price. The way this format works, there's so much additional information and things that have to be considered and processed into the format that I doubt, those that are, quote unquote, cutting some corners will be able to cut corners very well, at least in the beginning, because they're not going to be familiar with it enough to understand how to get through it. Um, I'm right now in the middle of writing a class for the Appraisal Institute, and we're doing some supplemental classes to help appraisers understand that, if you're doing a sales comparison approach, as an example, one of the classes is just on the sales comparison approach, and it's about, be careful because Fannie and Freddie now can track all of your data very closely. And if you're not doing things the way you're supposed to be doing them, by theory and concept, and then in practice, they're going to catch you. And it's going to get some bad actors out of the field for sure. But we're hoping that with the companion classes, we're calling them, and we've got four. We're doing one on cost approach, which is the one that I'm writing, and then we have one on market analysis and one on sales comparison approach, and then another one called defects. It's the three Ds. I can't remember what they all are: distress, defect, and something else. But when properties have got damage to them and they need to be repaired or what have you, there's a whole class on that. We're contemplating a third class on the income approach, or I'm sorry, a fifth class on the income approach, so that way all the approaches are covered for each of the appraisers, and they don't put themselves in a position um, where they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. And a lot of times appraisers are not doing it intentionally. They've been, doing this for 40 years. They do it the same way they did it, 35 years ago, and they haven't changed as things have changed. And it's going to be easier for them to get caught. Fannie will be putting out some more training information. I know that the valuation committee at NAR is going to have some information coming out, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I've actually been accepted to the professional development uh, committee with VAR this year coming up. So I'm sure we're going to have some stuff that we're going to put together to make this a little easier. And once we've had our hands on it for a little bit more, and can speak the language a little clearer, a little better, I'm sure we'll have some stuff out there that's designed specifically for folks on the sales side. And of course, Fanny has got. I've got a link here that you can pull out of the PowerPoint when Teresa sends it out. But you can go over and look at it. The several appendices that this will link you to, they're boring to read, and I know no one on the sales side wants to dig that much into it. But there's one section, I think it's called Appendix C, that has several examples of reports. I think there's a dozen different properties that have been done, and they're all in hypothetical situations, but they've got manufactured homes, they've got townhomes, single family detached, 2 to 4 family. There's some examples in there with accessory dwelling units and things like that. Speaking of accessory dwelling units, there's more information that appraisers are going to need when we are there. So you have to, most of the time, the build date, as an example, we know of the main house, what that is. It's in the tax record. However, the accessory dwelling unit may not be. Appraisers are required to get that information now. So they're going to start asking you for it if you don't have it. So being proactive to it, um, you may want to, be prepared to have that information available either in your listing or, I know no one, we get appraisal packages all of the time from agents that are listing agents that are staying on top of it. They want to meet the appraiser. They want to give them all the information about the property. There's some things that you could include in your property information sheets that would be helpful. And as I pull that together, I will make it available. Don't necessarily need to do training on it. I mean, I can put together something simple enough. And if uh, Ashley or whoever else in charge of putting stuff out can share that out to the whole association, I'm happy to provide that once we get it put together. Here's the link here to that resource. And again, I doubt many of you are going to go over there. It might be great to print it out or save it on your tablet so you keep it next to your bedside at night when you can't sleep. Um, Believe it or not, I actually have it on my phone, so I can do just that, and it puts me to sleep every time I try to read that stuff. I think it's going to be a positive change for the profession, which in turn will be positive for everyone using lending appraisers. Hopefully, it's going to just make the process easier for everybody. And once we all get used to it, once we're several months into it, I'm sure it'll flow a whole lot smoother. So that's pretty much the end of what I have to present here. But I would love to take some questions or discuss anything you guys might want to discuss at this point. So does anybody have any questions?
Can you talk about ANSI measurements?
Absolutely. So ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, has a guide on measuring single family homes. It is something that Fannie adopted a couple years ago. That was a big shakeup in the appraisal world because now all homes have to be measured to that standard, even when they're not homes that would typically be considered with ANSI. What do I mean by that? Well, if you got a home, a berm home that's built into the side of a hill where nothing is, anything that doesn't have complete 360-degree above grade access is considered to be a basement as far as ANSI is concerned. So if you got a berm home, you can have a situation where every part of the property is considered to not be part of the gross living area, which is really weird to look at. There are exemption codes that we can use for that, but basically it has to be above grade. And some examples I'll give for those of you who work up in Wintergreen. There's a lot of houses up there that are hanging off the side of a mountain. A good deal of those properties are going to be considered below grade. Now, they're still valued. The areas that would be below grade are valued, but it's very confusing to anyone reading an appraisal report that doesn't know what ANSI is and how it works. They'll look at a report and go, well, I've got 3,500 square feet of living area in this property, but they're only showing 1,200 on the appraisal report. So the immediate thought is that the appraiser's not valuing all of the square footage. They, in fact, are valuing it, but we have to segregate it from anything that's above grade. So it can be frustrating and hard to understand. Even though the guide's not designed for condos, we still have to utilize the same principles for it. Fannie wants us to carry it over into any type of property that we're working with. So it will apply also to condos. But the difference between a condo in a like a multi-unit building, like an apartment or garden style situation where everything's attached, we technically only look at the interior square footage because the usually the condo homeowner does not own anything on the exterior. So it goes from wall to wall inside rather than corner to corner on the exterior. Um, what else about ANSI would you like to know?
That's good, but just one more thing. Can you go over the difference between concessions and seller concessions versus compensation on the appraisal value?
I love the question because that is one of the most conflated things that we're dealing with right now. So, and it can get a little nutty or confusing. So stop me and ask questions if you need to as I'm going through it. But a concession, what is a concession? A concession is only something where a seller is giving something of value to the buyer, and a lot of times it's going to be closing costs. Commissions are not concessions. They should never be inputted as such, even when the situation is you're negotiating out something and maybe they're in the original offering the listing agent saying, well, we're not paying compensation for the buyer broker. And just because you negotiate with them and then get it included in it does not make it a concession. Commissions should be always separated from concessions. Otherwise, what ends up happening is with concessions, I have to when I'm using a comparable sale, it doesn't matter on the actual subject property, but what ends up happening when that closes, if it's inputted into the system as a concession, adding the commission in with a concession, then what ends up happening is when I have to make what's called a cash equivalency adjustment for it, which means that if $5,000 is given to the buyer for their closing costs, that effectively lowers the net sales price of the property. So that will actually affect how that property will be analyzed in the value opinion when we're using it as a comparable. It works really the same way that I know everybody here in Charlottesville gets it. We're very fortunate, and that many years ago, I guess some of the attorneys working on closings decided that it was a good idea for commissions to only be paid on the net sales price rather than paying it on the gross. So concessions are removed in most transactions. When you read in the contract, it says that your commission's only paid on that on what the net sales price is. So it's pretty easy for us to understand here, but it's really a conundrum for other places across the country. I actually worked on a white paper that has yet to be published that actually goes through a couple of examples with this, and it can be really confusing for folks. The other thing I'll mention in relation to this is repair credits. Repair credits are not concessions either. That goes into the condition of the property. So that should not ever be added in as a concession either. But yeah, it can get a little confusing. Did that answer your question on that?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. I'm happy to do it. What else have we got, folks? Uh, my friend Janice is sitting there. She looks like she's judging me. You don't have any questions for me, Janice?
Actually, I do. I had my hand up, but you didn't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
It's hard
that's
to
okay.
do it. Hard to do in these virtual environments.
No, I got you. No, the only question I had, when the new reports become available, will we be receiving them in electronic formats where we can see what's included in the drop downs, or are we just getting the cover page?
Oh no, I mean, as far as what's given to you, usually what the way that works now, it should be the way that it works once this starts going, and is that whatever the borrower normally gets is usually what y'all will see. So, in this case, you'll get the full 20 some pages, which is why it's a good idea to know how to read these things. And we'll get some information out there for you to make sure that y'all are all as the best experts you can be with this stuff. But as always too, I mean, even if I'm not working with you on the assignment, if you got something that's confusing you on an appraisal, call me. I mean, I'll do what I can to help you with it. I'm always happy to help folks out in that way. Because appraising's hard. I mean, it's I've been doing this 26 years and I still learn something new every day. And I'd like to think of myself as an expert, but I just think of myself as just kind of like a lifelong learner. So, I like getting those questions a lot of times because it helps me think about it as different situations too to help out with what I do. So, But yeah, you won't see all the drop downs because by the time it gets to you, it's in a PDF format usually, or they can print it out, of course. But you'll be able to do that if you get a PDF. And that's something I just thought of, Teresa. We should talk about this later on. But those of you that are using ChatGPT or some other AI programs, you can prompt, if you know how to prompt them, you can actually have it go through and help you review an appraisal. I'm using it in my firm now. We use it for a lot of our analysis sections. You have to watch it because it is like any type of technology, you have to understand its limitations, and there definitely are some limitations with AI. But if you know how to work around them and work with them, it can make you very efficient. I mean, if you've got the proper promptings going on and you get an appraisal that you want to challenge, it may not get you to the point where you have good comparables as an alternative, but it may get you to a point where you can actually bring up some good points with a reconsideration of value. Those of you who have been through some of the appraisal classes that I do at CAR for continuing education for y'all, we have one where we're talking about reconsideration of value. And there's a lot of things that if you understand how to read the reports, that it gives you more ground to cover because it's not always just about the comparables. It's about whether or not the appraisal report's written well enough to be usable. And believe it or not, I see a lot of lending reports they're not even minimally done. I mean, they're just not. It seems like sometimes the appraisers aren't really trying as hard as they could try on them. But I'm not trying to denigrate anybody out there. So, who else has a question? Anybody dealt with any challenges lately in the appraisal world? I know with things dragging on with days on market getting a little bit longer, and we're seeing price adjusting happen more frequently now. There's bound to be some issues with appraisers being a little overzealous or something like that with how they're discounting and that kind of type of thing.
Donna, I see your hand.
Thanks,
So,
Ashley.
Yeah.
Woody, when did you say these are taking effect?
Well, the early adoption starts on Monday.
On Monday.
Yes.
So, do you have any idea when you might have that list? Because I just had a property go under contract and they've got to have an appraisal within 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're
I
probably
always meet them because it's a horse
yeah.
property and most
Yeah.
appraisers don't understand horse properties.
Yeah, that's actually our bread and butter. We do a bunch of those. Uh,
If I
what
get to choose, you'll get it.
I'm sure. I appreciate that. I doubt you're going to see much of this early on. Like I said earlier, the software providers for the appraisers, none of them have a format that's up and running right now. Fannie and Freddie would be best to just say our early adoption is going to get kicked out a couple of months because Total, who's owned by CoreLogic, I'm sure everybody knows, or what is it called now? Cotality. Um, they're the biggest real estate data entity out there, and their platform, which is called Total, is not ready. Now, I'm a beta tester for them, and we're still looking at November as uh, a date that we're going to actually have something up and running. So I doubt you see it soon. But if y'all get one of these and you got a question on it, let me know. I'll do my best to try to help you. As far as getting a list together, as soon as I get a working format in my hand, I'll definitely put something together because I need to put something together for my staff anyway. Because this is I mean, I'm spending, even though I instruct this stuff, I still have to pay a lot of money to send my folks through all these classes they're going to have to take over the next couple of months. So, but yeah, Donna, let me know if I can help. I'm happy to do it. All right, anybody? I can't see everybody as far as raising hands. If you've got a question, you can just unmute yourself and go. Wait, don't hold you up. We've got some chat questions down here. All right, no questions. Just okay. Nothing else, guys. I'm surprised. I know this is not the most exciting topic to talk about, but it's one of those things that we have to all deal with, right?
I don't have a question, just a comment.
Yeah.
I appreciate your comprehensive review of this, particularly well in advance of it, so we can be prepared. I can appreciate as a realtor with the number of changes that we have had to adapt to in the last, 18 months or so, and the changing of forms and that we get twice a year. I can appreciate the challenges must be for you all, particularly since you haven't had a lot of changes in recent years. But um, I think that it's going to be a good thing. The one form you were reviewing looked very similar to like a CMA, so I think it'll be much easier for us to read and share the information with our clients in a um, more beneficial way. And I think
Yeah.
it will eliminate, once it's fully adopted, I anticipate a lot of the issues that have been um, brought out in recent years about discrepancies with appraisals will be addressed. So thank you for presenting this.
Oh, no problem at all. And I think you're right. I think it's going to be a more effective communication tool because that's what it is. I mean, a report's nothing more than communication, and the clearer that it is, the better it'll be for everybody. But we just got to get over the hump of learning how to utilize it, right?
I just
Mathea,
have a
go ahead.
question. I have a question. Can you talk a little bit more about the below grade? In other words, for example, if a house has the primary bedroom on the first floor, ground level, and you go downstairs, there are three other bedrooms down there. I know that you have to delineate above grade, below grade. Um, how can we do we need to express to our buyers, that an appraiser is going to look at this differently? Do you value that house differently than all four bedrooms being above grade? How do you take into consideration?
So when we make adjustments to properties, the reason we would make an adjustment is because the market would be reacting to it. Meaning that, when we do our analysis, we're going to look at properties that have that same situation if we can find them, and then compare them to properties that don't have them. Very often, there's no difference between the two. There are some markets where that might be an issue. I've done a couple where kitchens were in the basement. The primary kitchen, the only kitchen in the property was in the basement. And we're talking about an actual basement, not something that where it's like a walkout or a daylight basement, depending on what you want to call it. Daylight basements oftentimes just function like a two-story house, and most consumers don't react to it. Um, so if the appraiser's not seeing any difference between the two, they shouldn't make an adjustment. But there are situations where they may because the market may react to them. I know, like with berm homes, or hobbit homes, I like to call them. They're built into a hill. We have several around here in Charlottesville, or around the Albemarle County area. But there's a bunch in Rappahannock. Madison's got a few, so we see them, and there generally is a bit of a reaction from the market to those. But that's more of a functional thing, not because it's in below grade or in the grade or however you put it. But appraisers should never arbitrarily make adjustments for it. I know sometimes that's a problem that we run into is the appraiser will bring their personal opinion into it. They may not like it, uh, but that's a type of bias that they should not have. They should separate themselves from it. And if they're going to diminish value or discount the value because of it, they should have supporting information. So it would be reasonable to expect that to be in the report. I know oftentimes appraisers don't explain how they make their adjustments, but they're actually required to. But a lot of lenders just push the reports through and they don't focus on it. But I mean, if you're ever reading a report and you're going, why are you making this adjustment? It should explain in there at least, this is what we're adjusting for. This is how we determine there should be adjustment. Why we're adjusting, and the whole deal. But whether or not uh, it's in there or not, it's gonna vary from appraiser to appraiser. But if you're doing a reconsideration of value, it's definitely something to focus on. Uh, that would be an inconsistency in how they're applying theory at that point.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, awesome. Anybody else got anything? Because I know Teresa and Ashley have got a few things they need to get over to you guys here, and I'm just gonna let them have it here at about 9:50. Do reach out to me if y'all have any questions. I'm always happy to help. It's a pleasure. I mean, serving as treasurer this year, it's really neat to work with all of you because I learn more from y'all than you guys are learning from me by a long shot. I mean, it's nice to be in the mix with everybody and understanding how y'all work because it helps me understand. You, every one of you, spend more time with consumers than appraisers do. And, being able to have those conversations with you are valuable because you're sitting in the car with them and listening to what they want, what they need. And, you know, because you understand the consumer so well, it really helps the appraisers understand what's going on when we're communicating with you. So I appreciate the opportunity to come in and do it. But Teresa, I will hand this back over to y'all.
Okay, I'm sure you guys enjoyed that. And Woody, we probably will need to have you back and put another Latte and Learn together. I feel that these changes are going to be coming and we need to know more information.
Yep,
As it-
happy to do it.
So yeah, so we'll definitely be working with that with the Professional Development Committee. So if you could unshare, I am
Yes,
going
ma'am.
to share a couple things with you guys.
Yeah. And sorry, Teresa, my internet went out, but thank you so much, Woody, for sharing your expertise and all the great questions and discussion too from
No,
everybody.
no problem. Teresa, my hand is not letting me move my mouse too well. Where do I unshare? I'm sorry.
Uh, should be up at the top. It should say unshare.
I'm feeling like an old man right now. I can't figure out what I'm doing. I don't see stop share.
I'm not sure if I can share over you. Let me try it.
Yeah, you just did. There you go. Thank you.
Guys can see it? Okay, very good. Okay, I just wanted to bring you guys up to date on some of the things that's coming up. So if you'll give me just a few minutes to do that. Next Thursday is our annual Development and Economic Summit. If you have not registered, you want to definitely get registered for that. And also let me make you aware that usually this particular meeting, we have it in the afternoon because we need a little bit more time. So we do it from 2 to 4:30. We will have a short 15-minute break with some refreshments and just have an opportunity for you to get with the exhibitors and some of the sponsors. And as you can see, Lawrence Young is going to be with us. I love to hear him and Danushka. Ryan Price will be the moderator for that. And then we have our own Emily Kilroy from Albemarle County that will be talking about the local economic. Next, we have if you are taking the GRI classes, we have GRI 506 risk management coming up with Donna Patton. For those of you that are new, I do suggest that you start taking the GRI classes. It's a great foundation for your success. And then at the end of the month, for those of you that missed the ABR that we had last year, I know we had it twice last year. We have Tara Houston coming back. She's from Prince William County, and she is going to be teaching on September 29th and September 30th. This is a 2-day. You have to attend both days in order to get your ABR designation.
She is really good.
Yeah, she is very, very good. And then just an update on the Latte and Learn. If you registered for the Latte and Learn for October 3rd, we are going to need to cancel this and just uh, come back to the table with a new instructor. So we will probably have this again, but we just need to find somebody that's going to be able to teach it. If anybody knows someone that could do short-term rentals, please reach out to me and we will reschedule. And anybody that registered, I will be sending an email out letting you know. If you need your 16 hours, October 9th and October 16th in person, these classes are everything that you need. I take the guesswork out of it for you and I put it all together exactly what you need in those 2 days that's going to fulfill that license requirement through DPOR. For those of you that are new members, the new member incentive classes, the listing entry workshop, and how to avoid being the agent no one wants to work with. These classes are very valuable to the new members, but not just new members. If you want to attend these classes, they are free to all members. Doesn't hurt to take them. If you have a broker's license, you're going to need an additional 8 hours to make a full 24 hours. So the supervising broker and management of real estate brokerage firm is coming up on the 23rd of October. So I believe those are 3 Thursdays. So if you have a broker's license for 3 Thursdays straight, you can get all that you need to fulfill your license. We also have the ethics and professional responsibility, which is the GRI 507. We're nearing the end of our year. Most people started in January to take these classes, but even if you didn't start in January, you can start anywhere in the middle of the year. If you're just starting, that's fine. You will finish up in 1 year. So if you started, let's say, because I had somebody ask last time, if you started in June, right now, if you start taking our classes in September, you will finish up in June because we don't hold any of the classes past June. Our November general membership meeting is on November 6th, so mark these down. This is you'll get the results of the election for the 2026 officers and directors. And we have the Carr Foundation impact report with Dave Norris for that particular one. I just put this together as we were going through this class today. The school superintendents, I now have all of our superintendents that I was reaching out to. Albemarle County, Fluvanna, and Greene will be attending. That's Dr. Peter Gretz, Dr. Matt Haas, and Assistant Director Superintendent Dr. Kyle Purcell. They will be with Emily Dooley on November 7th for our Latte and Learn. So that's going to be our next Latte and Learn. We will skip October and go straight to this one in November. Then we hold the real estate law class, GRI 508, November 16th. And then we come up on our December installation, which is on December 4th. All of these classes are on the calendar, so you can definitely register for those. And so I have great news. All of the classes, all of the designations, except for GRI, are in our calendar for 2026. We cannot put the GRI classes up there yet, and not until I hear from the state giving me direction to be able to do that and to upload our dates for them. So if you're thinking, okay, well, I can take my 16 hours in January, they're there. Go ahead and register for them. We also, just a little heads up, we're going to do the Rennie class. How many took the Rennie class? I think it was in like 2022, the last time we held that. Rennie stands for Real Estate Negotiation Expert. It is a 2-day class. That's coming up in February. So if you didn't take it in 2022, now's the time to register for it because we're going to be holding it in 2026. So I'm excited about that. And then our affiliate members, Carr Directory, we have a affiliate directory that we keep updating throughout the year. This is a great opportunity for you to, have your team. Have your team. Who is your appraiser on your team? Have your team members. Who's your inspector? This is a great way for you to check out who are our members. And then the last thing on here is just our Carr Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Library. So this is housed in the store. So if you want to check out some of the books, you can always read them and then just take them back for someone else to enjoy. So anybody have any questions about classes that's coming up or just education in general? If so, feel free to send an email to me at education@carr.com and I will get back to you. So that's everything for today. Let me stop sharing. And we do appreciate you attending our Latte and Learns. We always have such a great response to that, and we're so thankful for it. If you have any topics that you think would be beneficial for us to put in a Latte and Learn, please reach out to the Professional Development Committee. Everything runs through the committee. We take a look at it, excuse me, and we make those decisions based on what you send us. So feel free to reach out to us so that we can put things together. We normally have a slate of about 6 Latte and Learns that we do a year, but we also leave room in case we have hot topics that we need to add in. So feel free to reach out to us so that we can put those into our calendar year. Anybody have any questions? Last chance. All right, great. Well, thank you for attending. We look forward to seeing you in November with the school superintendents. Thank you, Woody. As usual, we always appreciate Woody. He always teaches the appraisal to us, and we have his classes, and we need that one class approved, Woody. So don't forget about that. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend and a safe weekend. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.